This next section is titled The Fighting Starts. The key question for this section, where did the fighting begin? So as we read, we should figure out where the fighting began. We'll start reading right here. Germany began invading Belgium. It planned to overrun France and then to attack Russia. The British and French could not save Belgium. They did, however, manage to stop Germany's advance. By the spring of 1915, two lines of deep trenches had developed in France. Germans occupied one line. The Allies occupied the other line. Between the two lines lay no man's land. The soldiers would climb out of their trenches and try to overrun the enemy. They did this while facing machine gun fire and poison gas. This bloody trench warfare continued for more than 3 years. Neither side gained territory, but more than 1 million soldiers died. So the question that we need to answer here is why did the fighting take place in France? Well, there's actually a couple of reasons why the fighting took place in France. First off, Germany is going to invade France. So Germany, which is right here, decides they want to invade France. Now, France assumes that they're going to invade right here on the border between the two countries. That's where you would assume Germany would invade, right? But that's actually not where they're going to invade. Instead, Germany is actually going to go through Belgium. That's Belgium right there. And then come down into France from the north. Now, part of the reason why is because they're hoping to catch the French off guard. And so Germany invades France by going through Belgium. So I guess our first reason as to why the fighting took place in France is because Germany invaded France. It even says right here, the plan was to overrun France and then attack Russia. So they wanted to go to the west first, and then they would go back to the east and fight Russia. So our first reason is because Germany invaded France. All right. Now another reason would be because that's actually where the stalemate occurred. So you've got Germany comes through Belgium, invades France, and they get just over the border, and France is able to stop them. And that's in this little area of green right here that I'm drawing. This is where the trenches would have been. So our second reason, because that's where the stalemate occurred. That's where the stalemate occurred. All right, that's where the stalemate occurred. So, remember, the word stalemate just means that nobody is winning. There's some sort of a competition. One side or the other is supposed to win, but neither is winning, and it looks like it's going to develop into a tie or a draw. That's really what a stalemate is. And so basically, once the trenches were built, that is where the stalemate occurred. And so that's where that's why fighting was taking place in France. And I guess if we had to have a third reason, it would be because that's where the trenches were. Of course, because that's where they built their trenches, that's probably why the stalemate occurred there. But I think all three reasons here are pretty good reasons. So if we're answering the question, why did the fighting take place in France? Well, first off, that's because that's where Germany decided to invade France first instead of invading Russia. Had they decided to invade Russia, maybe the fighting would have taken place in Russia first. But fighting took place in France first because Germany invaded France. And Also, the reason why the fighting sort of continued in France and stayed in France is because that's where the stalemate occurred, and that's also where the trenches were built.